The Hittite covenant has brought a problem, a very big one, because in theology, few people can differentiate what is a Hittite covenantal system and what is actually God is saying. The Bible is both the word of God and the words written by the words of men. The words we read in the Bible have been written by human beings. As I told you that we are God's co-worker. God would have written his own Bible and then he dropped it from heaven. But he never did. He went through a laborious system of over 60,000 years, writing the Old Testament, writing with the different people, meeting different situations at any given time, and using the people of that particular time. I repeat this. God would have written his own Bible and then it would have dropped from heaven. But God allowed the humans to participate in his revelation because we are his co-workers. He doesn't want to leave us behind. And because of that, God's revelation has to be very clear, that it has to encompass things which human beings know and understand. Since we are the ones who are going to write that revelation we saw, the act which we have thought that God has spoken in that very act, we are the ones who write it. And therefore, God has to use me, who is writing, using me to write with the familiar elements I have. I cannot write anything else which has no familiarity to me. In those days, the Hittite covenant system was the one which was familiar to the people who are making covenants. Whether secular in courts and everywhere, they used a covenantal system of Hittite. If God was revealing himself today, we would have used maybe the Western type of covenant and contracts. But in those days, he had to use the contracts and covenants which the authors of the Bible will be able to understand, since the Bible was written by human beings. That is a very important pre-understanding. It doesn't mean that those verses are not inspired, but it means those are the verses people knew, the system people knew at that time. The system went the following. I want to repeat because this is a very crucial point. The verse was saying, if you are good, I will protect you. And so the author transferred that the leader, the conqueror of a vassal king, you see, a conqueror of a vassal king, told the vassal king, if you are good, I will protect you. I'll make sure that you are comfortable. I'll make sure that there's no army which comes to attack you. But if you are bad, then disaster will fall upon you. I will attack you. Now that was a secular Hittite system method. God adapts the secular system method because that's what Moses understood. And God could not supply another method because Moses has to use a method he understands. And Moses took where the army or the emperor of this world was, and he put there Yahweh. Yahweh was talking to Israel as its vassal. I brought you out of Egypt with my mighty hand. Thou shalt not have this and this, okay? If you are good, I'll protect you. If you are good, I'll give you everything you do want. I will bless you. But that's the way the Hittite covenantal system runs. It does not mean that the system came from heaven. God does not transport systems from heaven. He uses our own systems, however imperfect they may be. If they're imperfect, they will continue to be imperfect until a time will come when He will perfect it, when people have grown to a certain level. It may take years for people to grow. You see? Now, for example, I go back to tithe. For example, many of us give offerings and tithe so that we may be blessed. As Malachi says, but some people have been giving tithe ever since they were born, and they have never become rich. But the people who have never given a cent, and they are very rich. Why? Can't you see that discrepancy? You wonder, is God faithful to what he is saying? Why is He deceiving us? Why is He saying give tithe and the blessings they will not fit in your house? You will look for where to put them. Food will be plenty. You will even rebuke the eater on your behalf. Heaven has no system. Heaven does not give a prophet a system. He lets whoever He has chosen to write what he has seen to use the system which he knows at that particular time. But simply because that individual has used that system does not mean that it has a stamp of heaven as an imprimatur. Boom! That is the system. No. But that is the best way to understand things at that particular time. That's why revelation, we call it is progressive. It has never been static, because it has never been complete at one time. It keeps on building up to the level of a climax. You see? Yes. And so we need to be very careful with this pre-understanding. And I will be repeating myself very often so that you understand what I am saying. God made a lot of systems in place as He was revealing Himself. But He never took them away. For example, God never protested that I can't be a homestead God, because that was the system at that time. Had He protested, where would He have started? At that time, there was no place for God to go unless to begin as the systems of the time. And those who are authors about God, they could only understand Him when they are writing about Him as a homestead God. And they did write about Him as a homestead God because that's when they could understand. That's what they could understand. But that does not mean that God was so happy to begin as a homestead God that heaven approved the homestead God. No, it is culture. That's the way it was. And the poor God, as I call him in my book, he had to follow procedure patiently because he is looking for people whose brains can only understand that system. He can only change that system only after a very long time, when there's growth of things, growth in time, growth and maturity. For example, I told you already that the patriarchs were polygamists. Why don't we use those verses now to have as many wives as those people had? The answer is simple. Islam took it exactly from there as it is. That's why they have 4. But for us as Christians, it took Jesus himself to say he made a man and a woman in Mark 10. Look at that. The patriarchs lived in BCs, and the situation is being rectified in the New Testament by God himself in Mark. How many years are those?